Welcome to our July podcast. We're getting it in right at the end of the month. How is it going? Today, we're going to be talking about Ava because it just came out on Netflix, and there's been a big controversy behind the new Netflix dub. And we got to talk about the show eventually, and why not strike while the iron's hot? How's everyone doing? While we all introduce ourselves, I am Neo Tokyo Tempo.
I am Getsuryu.
676 here.
And for the defense of the plaintiff, I am Lawrence Tubbs. Thank you.
I think Lewis was trying to introduce himself right when you said that. Lewis, go ahead and reintroduce yourself.
Strike a red! What up with the dub? Nerd!
Alright, and I'm Red Baron. Otherwise
We really need to get an order for this.
Indeed.
Yeah, we do. We've been doing this for like a year and we don't have an order. So, what'd you say, Lewis?
No, I was gonna say that it's we're mostly more about chaos.
Oh yeah. So, Ava, as everyone knows, everyone should know, everyone who's ever heard of anime should know, is a series about, on the surface, about giant robots and aliens or kaiju, or in this case, what they're called in the show, angels, attacking Earth and threatening to wipe out the planet. This was after what was called Second Impact, which wiped out a massive percentage of the Earth's population and destroyed much of society. And now people live in fear always of the threat of being attacked and getting their homes destroyed, and everything just completely dying, basically. And we started off with Shinji coming to Tokyo 3 to meet his father, Gendo Akari, for the first time in years. And upon meeting him, before meeting him, he's brought into a secret underground facility where the Evangelions are run. And this facility is called NERV, or NERV headquarters. The organization's called
Are
NERV.
we allowed to spoil the nature of the Evas?
This anime is how old at this point?
95 to 96. So
Yeah.
it's old enough, bro.
More than 20.
We'll get
can be a spoiler.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I'm just giving like a basic. I'm just giving a basic
Synopsis.
summary. Yeah. Anyway, upon showing up, his father Gendo tells him to get in the robot, and reluctantly he does, despite the memes of him not getting in the robot. He does, and he has to defend the Earth against, or he has to defend mostly Tokyo 3 specifically against the angels, which are slowly evolving and becoming more intelligent and more competent at their job, until as the show's going on, all the characters start to degenerate as human beings until they're nothing left but shells of what they were, and they all fall into existential crises until the human instrumentality sort of deconstructs them and reconstructs them, because the show, its plot doesn't really wrap up. It just stops, and then they're like, okay, we're going to deconstruct these characters and reconstruct them and show you everything about how they work, and we're going to get very philosophical with this.
Mhm.
And everyone was mad about the ending. Everyone was mad about the ending, and they made a new one. They
No,
made a movie.
they were very much beyond mad as a couple of death threats got sent into a studio. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I feel
I
like
guess
we
we'll-
should get the bitching about the ending done first, considering how much more there is
Yeah.
before it.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I told a few of my friends I was watching this, and they're like, "Why are you not watching the end of Evangelion? Like, why are you not watching like anything other than the original?"
Well, the original is better than the rebuild movies by far, but the ending, I will not defend the ending.
yeah. So let's get that out of the way.
I will. I quite enjoy the ending. A lot actually. I think, of course it's made on the tiniest budget ever seen in anime. But I dig it. Because instead of sort of wrapping up the plot, right, and maybe clarifying things that happened, it just decides to go into like, well, okay, so what if we just sort of resolve some of the characters, like emotional arcs, things like that, give you further analysis and introspection on these characters, and it's a very it's not a narrative idea by any stretch of the imagination, but it's interesting because
I mean,
I was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
it feels like you could have chopped all that up and padded some episodes for character development, not had this weird stroke of an acid trip at the very end.
Mhm. But
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that it's the elephant in the room. You have to resolve the plot. You can't just drop it.
It's definitely, but it just kind of it's an interesting thing. Like, are you what about the anime is driving you forward more? Is it the characters or the narrative, or is it the actual combination of both?
Well, the characters in the narrative are kind of intertwined with one another. It wouldn't be the same narrative without the characters, and the characters wouldn't be the same without the narrative. That's actually proven by the slice of life sequence, where you're seeing Ray run out of her house with toast in her mouth and stuff like that. They're not even close to the same people.
And they're trying to show that you can shape your own reality. That's kind of the moral lesson at the end, is you have full control over whatever your reality is. But it doesn't bring up the fact that the reality of their situation is that angels are coming to destroy everyone. You can have a better outlook on life, but that doesn't address the immediate issues at hand. That doesn't fix the problems. That's ignoring the issues.
I think
it kind of ignored all of
go
the
ahead.
other things that were going on. It ignored what was happening with Nerve. It ignored how he saw his father. They could have had like a better philosophical mindset of like, oh well, my father thinks this way, so then I can think this way, and maybe he's not as bad of a person. And then kind of like wrap it in on himself that way and bring it back into Nerve, and then him having that philosophical ground break, and then being like, okay, I'm ready to do this, and then have a better version of himself piloting a mech.
Yeah.
However, it didn't
That's
wrap up like that. Yeah, go ahead.
If I add
Yeah.
my
That's kind of what happened in the end of Ava movie. More or less. Go ahead.
all right. So ultimately, what Shinji wanted more than anything else was his father's support, and he would do anything just hear his old man say the words.
You're cutting out.
Right. Oh. All right. To make it TLDR, in the case of Shinji, what is the thing that Shinji wants the most? And no, it isn't the normal life. He wants his father's approval. That's basically the only reason more or less why he gets.
He wants approval from other people in general.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
he wants approval from literally everyone. Like, he has this
Yeah.
whole breakdown saying that when people say it's okay, right?
Well,
Yeah, he has self-esteem so low that you could measure it with compare it with the Mariana Trench. That's how low it is.
yeah. You mean the Mariana Trench? Is that what you said?
Yes.
All right,
But
all right.
anyway,
I think
we all dig a bit deeper into what the characters are, or
Yeah.
their problems. In the case of Asuka, going through a very traumatic experience.
yeah.
Ray
I think we've talked about as much as we really can about the ending without like sitting down with a keyboard and like really thinking about it. In this format, it's a little difficult to talk about something.
I'm just gonna
that's
say my take on it, which was, it was just anticlimactic. It killed it for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. My first time as a teenager, seeing it, I liked it. Rewatching it as an adult, I'm kind of like, I just remember the bitterness. I don't remember the part of liking it. What I liked was the realism, the commandos pouring in, but what I didn't like was the mass production Evas showing up and chewing up.
Oh no! That's the end of Evangelion movie. We're talking about
sorry.
the ending of the show.
I'm mixing up the two.
Yeah.
My apologies.
So, and just to kind of loop back, I think the other biggest issue with the ending was that it didn't resolve any other character. It just resolved him. Like, you don't see anyone else have their existential moments.
I feel like
well, like, there was so many issues with the ending.
I feel
basically all centered about Shinji.
Yeah.
That was so obvious. It wasn't.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine to like center around Shinji, but like to have all the other characters, you can, like, you're caring about them, and then they have absolutely no resolve. Like, they don't even have like really an ending. So you just kind of sit there wondering what happens to them as well.
I think what I would say in rebuttal to that is that there's not really any place where the other characters can go, because the arcs of these characters are not growing as people. They are degenerating as people.
Yeah.
So with Misato, Risco, and Asuka, they all of them are, by the end of the series, they're just shells of people. They've been through so much trauma that they can hardly even function as moral
Human beings.
agents.
So this is one of the reasons that I like the show's ending, is because the situation that they're in is not going to resolve in any way that's going to give. Well, this is before taking End of Eva into equation. That's going to give necessarily happy endings, or a sort of sending a lot of these people into a more positive direction. So, with that in mind, when I first watched it, I'm like, okay, this isn't and I don't know if I would say it's an acceptable ending, right? As far as resolving an actual plot, but it resolves Shinji's character like arc to me, and I feel like it's a good idea to try and do that when you know the direction that the story would go if it kept going is nothing positive for the characters.
Well, I guess that's
Now-
an interesting distinction to make.
Yeah.
Acceptable versus interesting. Interesting, yes. Acceptable, no. Not for an ending.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from the ending and talk about another sort of orbiting topic before we really get into the meat of the show. It's the Lawrence, stop doing that.
Oh, my bad.
That is
Attack
the
of the bag
handle.
of the attack of the bag of the chips.
Oh yeah,
That was my shirt collar.
Hey,
My bad.
hey! I'm talking here. All right. What was I going to say? The other orbiting topic that we have to tackle before we get into this to the meat of this show, and that is the handling of the Netflix dub. Because I personally think it was very poor, and I'm a little annoyed by it.
Well,
I'll jump on the other side of that train, and I'll talk about like the better parts of it, but I don't think that it was super well done, is what I'll say.
I'm gonna play middleman, because I like some parts of it and I despised other parts.
I think there is a certain to me my problem comes with it's dividing the fandom a little bit, right? When you make changes to this, you change you're going to change a certain group of people's experience, right? So you're going to have all these weird differences and inconsistencies among people who would normally be on the same page. So this is kind of what happened with Dragon Ball Z Kai. Some people just don't even know what Kai is to a certain extent, but what I think mitigates some of it is the fact that they used the same dub cast for the most part, when they did that. But with this, using an entirely different cast, I think is definitely a little detrimental to keeping a sort of unity amongst the English-speaking fandom. Because now you're gonna have people who develop their own sort of preference toward one and the other, some other translation. You basically end up with like a bit of infighting, and it's not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the best thing you'd want. Now, apparently this translation is a bit closer to the original Japanese. People contested that. People have their own sort of preference with some of the translation choices. And when I first heard the dub, I didn't like it. I don't prefer the new Netflix dub at all.
My not anything to do with the fandom, because I don't really interact with the anime fandom.
Mm-hmm.
It's not anything to do with the translations, because I don't know if the translation's any better or not. My issue, I have other issues, but my biggest issue is that it seems like the new cast is completely incapable of voice acting at all.
well,
None
what
of
do you
the
expect from a bunch of voice actors from California?
they
Low budget
None
voice
of the-
actors.
no
Okay. Let him continue, and then I want to touch on this point too.
All right. First of all, none of the characters have any chemistry with one another, leaving the scenes feeling like they're empty. The characters don't feel like they're talking to one another or interacting in a natural way, whereas the most part do in the ADV dub. And then the second problem is they haven't even gotten over like the first hurdle that new voice actors have to get over before they can even be considered anything close to a competent voice actor. And that is not being nervous about yelling and screaming into the mic. they almost all the times that characters raise their voice, they do it half-heartedly. They could bear. It's like they feel embarrassed about doing it, and it's just such a low level of, like, it's just such a lack of professionalism that it should have had. I mean, this isn't, I know most of you guys here don't like this show, and it's mostly Lawrence and I that do, but this, I think everyone here can agree that Ava, despite you not liking it, is extremely important. This isn't just some random seasonal anime that you could have Funimation or someone do half-ass dub and uh, and throw it in the ether because it's going to be forgotten about anyway. This is one of the most important cultural icons of anime to ever be made. You don't just you
Oh, no,
don't
like,
just
I
throw
wouldn't
crap at it.
ever. I would never concede that. Like, I would always say that this is one of like the most famous historic animes. This is something that most mech animes have bought from. I mean, just looking at one of all of our favorites, which so far, like, I think we all agreed that Darling in the Franxx is one of the best ones, and that just felt more complete. However, the amount that it drew from, you cannot say that. So,
Yeah.
what I want to say on the topic of how the Netflix adaptation is, they didn't get super low budget people, or like people like new to the industry. They found like people that were already in the industry doing like either like one-time things or background voices or like small characters basically. And there's a couple like bigger names in there, but for the most part, the group that's hired for Netflix is VSI, which is a London group, and they just kind of grab whoever they can. They aren't like, they're known as one of the biggest ones, but mostly what they're known for is subtitling. So what they're known for is just like being able to translate things really well. So whenever they're grabbing voice actors and starting up dub studios and getting things together, it just really didn't work. Like, even if you look up like where their dubbing studios are, they're like there's one in New York and there's one in Los Angeles, but all the voice actors are in Texas right now. And it
Oh.
just left for a lot of issues with grabbing the right people.
Yeah.
Which is
gosh.
which is interesting because well, to me this is interesting because Ava 444, the final movie's coming out, and I believe they're probably just going to use the ADV cast for that because I believe that's Funimation. But it's just a bit strange for this to be the largest
Funimation,
presentation.
Sentai Filmworks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because of that. That's why it was done like that. Like, that's why they grabbed whoever they could. I mean, like, the guy who's playing Shinji, like, almost no one's heard of. All he's done is play someone in Mob Psycho.
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, if that's the cast that you can grab, so be it. I do like the quality better.
But however,
I do like how it sounds better. However, they should have done a better job. They should have probably shelled out to Funimation, been like, "Hey, we need good voice actors right now."
However, some of the original cast did, reapply, try out for their roles, which just raises a bit of questions to me, because a lot of the voice actors sound like they're doing sort of their own impressions of those original voices.
That reminds me of the guy who played Lando in a Solo, a Star Wars movie. A lot of people said the guy who played Lando was doing an impression of Lando, not Lando.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's
Wilbur.
not go too much into it. But point being is, Josh, you already took most of what I was going to say. But what I was going to get at is, it's most of it is contracting. It has to do with contracting. And as somebody who is, I mean, okay, I like the manga. I don't have that much of an attachment to the show. Like, I'm not super attached, but I recognize its importance. It's just as important as Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and Gundam and all these other shows. But point being is, with a show like that, you just cannot cut corners. You cannot go, oh, but I'm sorry, it's a contract. No, it doesn't matter if it's a contract, because you risk damaging not just the franchise, but your affiliation with that franchise and its originator.
Yeah. So
Another segueing from that, I also have to touch on the fact that they for some reason, even though they obviously were going to make a ton of money out of this anyway, for some reason they didn't license Fly Me to the Moon for the ending.
Yeah,
So-
that creepy piano music was playing like as soon as the episode ended.
can I touch on two of these things really quick?
Can I
Okay.
add something real
Okay.
quick before we move on?
Just really fast. One,
Yeah.
most people are gonna say watch the sub anyway. Like, I mean, like that's
Oh yeah,
that's the meme no matter
That-
what.
that's
So,
what-
I mean,
that's
this
what I'm
shouldn't
gonna
even
say.
be an issue. Is like we should all just. It's like if you have an issue with this, if we're arguing over what dub is better, then all the sub people are just going to be sitting there like, well, if you just watch the sub, like you'd just be reading the translation anyway. You'd get the better accurate representation, and there's a good point to that. That the
Yeah.
sub is always going to be more accurate, so there's absolutely no reason.
the
Whenever it
voice
comes-
actors are going to be better too,
yeah.
most likely.
I would argue there's a couple recently that I've heard that the voice actors are better in the English than they are in the Japanese, but that's very rare. But I will say the Fly Me to the Moon controversy, and this is just to touch on it. Back then, it was Frank Sinatra, and it wasn't as hard to get a copyrighted song. It didn't cost as much. And how much the Sinatra family, after his passing, is just gutting people for money. Like, if you understand the music industry, they weren't paying that amount. Like, it would have been a ridiculous amount of money for the license for that, especially if
mean,
they
let's-
were going to even try, like they would have to play the original, and if they weren't playing the original, it would cost more. Like,
Wait, hold on a
cost
second.
more.
Lewis, go
Yeah.
after me. So you're telling me a cover would cost more?
So they would have to pay the exact same amount of rights, and then they would also have to pay the people to make the cover.
Well, the covers were already there.
They would, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly. They could have caused like a licensing issue too, with like it's like, oh, these covers. They might have needed to play a contract for every single cover. Might have been the other issue.
Yeah, like when it comes to like cover songs and things like that, it all depends upon like the original artist and how they handle the copyright. Like
Well,
Black
we
Sabbath will
can-
let people cover their songs all the time.
We can cover this as an actual debate in the future. But
Yeah.
I'm actually curious about this because Konami kind of they messed up the Silent Hill remaster because of this. This whole like licensing over media that's already been recorded. A remaster shouldn't be a violation of a license. That makes no sense to me. But then again, this is Western licensing, and to me, as somebody who's grown in both Eastern and Western society, it just makes no sense to me. Like Fly Me to the Moon had already been recorded with the show. If it's just being presented on Netflix, it's strange to me that they would require new payment for something that they already been paid for. But
It also could have been because of the new dub. I know a lot of soundtracks get redone after a new dub comes in, because it wasn't the original format that was already signed on. It's really, really stupid. Like, there's so many ridiculous copyright laws that we could touch on, but yeah, no, it's this one of the most ridiculous cases where
All right,
it was just a family that was trying to make as much money off of someone that died. So
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, I think we should. I think we should move on.
Let Lewis
Uh,
hold on. Let Lewis do his question because he's been waiting for a little bit.
yeah,
man. Well, basically, there's been a lot. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to be Frank Sinatra. I mean, look at all the people who sang the "Fly to the Moon" regarding the show.
Well,
The
yeah,
show's,
but
it was two people.
yeah, but here's the,
I know.
again.
I know
it
you,
goes back
Kobe
to
Amora.
no, it goes
I
back
know
to
you.
what it goes back to what Josh said,
Go ahead.
Lewis. They'd have to pay for the rights and for whoever covered it, and on top of that, even if they got a song, this is the secondary option. Even if they got a song that was similar sounding, fans would still be pissed off. Anyways, I guess let's move on. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah. All right. So
mean-
I guess since we were talking about music licensing, let's go into the show's soundtrack. What did you guys think of the soundtrack?
I'm gonna have to go first before some we talk. So, let's be honest here. Megumi Hayashibara did a very good job with this, with the intro, despite it being a little too upbeat for what is essentially an anime about mecha.
Well, it's not. It's not just.
I disagree.
I think. I think not only is the opening catchy, but it's also rather intense, despite its sort of disco-y leanings.
Yeah, it's basically for those who don't know what the song is about. It's basically about Shinji wanting to be a legend. So basically, in this case, Megumi Hayashibara herself is telling Shinji, "Go be a legend."
Yeah, and then
And regarding go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I also think there's a lot of there's a lot of really good music. Everything from really intense stuff for the battles to really relaxed stuff for kind of the chilled out scenes, maybe scenes where people are talking, to
Yeah, it was it was well orchestrated.
to that really grating piece where they're just playing that really high note on the piano over and over again. You can feel the air tighten around you while they're playing it. Some of the music is basically rip-offs of Gundam music. I will say that, like Angel Attack, the dun 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 dun
Definitely,
dun, dun,
definitely.
dun, dun.
That
That is basically ripped straight from Gundam.
If I recall correctly, there's also some music that's heavily inspired by some Godzilla films. The thing about Ava that one that I used to sort of throw around was like, oh, I can see through this because I see all the things that sort of inspired a lot of the ideas and some of the choices that were made in the production. So there's a lot of homages to things that Hideaki Anno appreciates and loves as a fan. So especially things like Gundam, Tokusatsu things like Godzilla. It definitely comes through.
There is something I want to add regarding Hideaki Anno, and that is, and I'm gonna be honest here, his love of European cars. Because in the case of Misato, this has been a thing that has been going on whenever Hideaki Anno puts out an anime. And it's a fact that he always has to put at least one or two European automobiles. Like, for example, Misato's cars were both the Ferrari 308 and a Renault Alpine A310, which was basically a car just as iconic as the series itself. At least,
Yeah, I noticed that detail while I was watching. I'm like, hey, wait a second, is that a Japanese car or is that a European car?
it's a French car, basically. No, it's a French car.
That was pretty cool. Oh, by the way, Lawrence, having grown up watching Godzilla, the first episode, first time I watched it on VHS, immediately I thought, this is a kaiju film, or this is something out of a kaiju. Helicopters trying to take down a giant monsters.
Yep. Yeah, it's you could definitely tell why he wanted to go on to direct a Godzilla film. You could tell the things that he really enjoys just from his work a lot.
All right. Let's see. Does anyone have anything else to say about the music?
Honestly,
Mike, you've been quiet.
Honestly, I did enjoy the music. I mean, there's some parts that, like what you pointed out, like the Angel Attack music, that was something that really built tension and something I really enjoyed. There's other parts, I guess, also I'm at a disadvantage because I watched the Netflix dub. I've heard about the series for years, and this is my first time sitting down and watching it. So the music kind of played background more so than the actual plot that I was observing. But the Angel Attack, as you pointed out, and the opening song, which I do like the upbeat contrast with okay, this is about to get kind of dark for you. I like that contrast with it. I'm not sure, though. Y'all kind of hit on a lot of the same points as me.
Mike,
right.
if I want to interject something, there's also the. Do you guys remember that synchronizing episode with Shinji and Asuka?
Oh
When
yeah,
when
I actually did enjoy that music.
Yeah, that is actually one of my favorite tracks. When it has an 80s aerobics vibe, and then after that it goes through. I forgot what was the classical song that played when they were fighting together, but it was a very good.
Oh, that actually, I did enjoy that scene where they had the nice classical music perfectly in sync.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the best regarding synchronizing music to a fight and an action scene in general.
So just because I think it's kind of funny, I did look up like the Wikipedia pages. There's an entire giant Wikipedia page just for all the music in this anime. It's just it's actually ridiculous how much music went into the entire series. So
Yeah, dude. Oh, and there's
Will,
just-
breathing in your microphone.
yeah, just what we were watching right now is over an hour of just straight music from their soundtrack.
I want to answer real quick and personally. Here's the thing. I appreciated Fly Me to the Moon, but all the covers. But my personal favorite isn't even from Evangelion. It's actually from Bayonetta.
Yep. Anyways,
But
that's
outside
a
that,
cool- that's a cool tidbit.
sorry. You know what? Go ahead.
So anyways, anybody have any favorite episodes? Because I got two.
Personally, I like.
Wait, hold on. How about this? A least favorite and a favorite. How about that?
So I would say that my favorite was the ending because it was over, but that was the worst episode. So
Oh hey, we got applause and Shinji being told he did a great job.
Omedeto, Shinji.
You
So,
cracked the
no,
code, Shinji.
honestly-
You cracked the code.
honestly,
my dude.
my favorite episode had to be whenever they were fighting on the ships, like where they were like playing hopscotch. And
Oh,
jumping around and
Asuka
such.
strikes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that
That's-
was definitely my favorite. Like having her get introduced and just like that's whenever I started actually paying more attention. I'm like, oh, this anime could be interesting, and then it fell off very quickly after that. But that was
gotta
whenever
agree.
it actually started picking up. Was around that time.
I agree with that. I think that episode probably was the best character reveal, and it had a nice like risk versus or not like added risk to the main character doing well. And not only that, but the implications of they did the best they've ever done in this one situation.
Yeah. My favorite episode. Actually, you didn't say your least favorite episode. Your most hated one.
Well, I did. It was the ending.
Oh, okay.
It was part of the joke. I would say it was the ending because then it would be over, but no, that was the worst episode in the entire series.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
I gotcha. My favorite episode had to be the one where Asuka has her complete breakdown as a human being. I think that's by far my favorite episode. The sort of dream sequence thing is completely horrific. The screaming with all the digital effects they put into it, where is it is that fuels it's the stuff of and just watching this lively sort of mischievous kind of somewhat malicious character turn completely broken, barely even functional shell of a human being is quite a rush. I don't want to say it's entertaining because that sounds kind of heartless, but it's pretty fantastic. The whole episode is an emotional roller coaster. The elevator scene is you could cut the tension in the air with a knife in that elevator scene.
Oh, you mean that? You mean the scene with Misato and
No,
Katsumi?
no, that's not in that episode. No, I'm talking about the one where Asuka falls apart. No, I'm talking about the elevator scene where Rei and Asuka are just standing in the elevator and saying nothing for like 52 seconds. I think it was. And because the camera doesn't cut at all, it traps you in the elevator with them. Like you're actually standing in the elevator and you can feel the murder in the air.
Yeah, you can feel the two.
And then I think my least favorite episode, it would either be episode 3, The Hedgehog's Dilemma, or I want to say that one, but the episode where Asuka gets into that fat suit and jumps into the volcano, I'd say is a lot worse.
Magma Diver, that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably that was complete trash. Like that I hate, like I'd rather watch the ending than that.
That was more visual than anything else for anyone who has a demon. At least regarding the inflation fetish.
Yeah, I bet DeviantArt loved that one.
Anyways, my turn. So, favorite episode. I honestly, it's kind of tough because like, I forgot the angel's name. It's the weird jewel looking one. It looks like a jewel.
Oh yeah,
Raziel.
That one is my favorite episode of all time. Both in the original and in this Netflix dub. And least favorite has to be this one. I mean, okay, so it was hard for me for the favorite one because it was either the first episode or Raziel, because I like the first episode because I'm a kaiju fan, because the reveal was great. Because I really, really, really liked the design for is it Sachiel or Sachiel or how do you pronounce that? The
I mean, I don't know any of the angels' names.
The first
angels had names.
Yeah,
I thought they were
the
just
fir- it was-
numbered.
It was the first angel. It was the first angel, and it looks like something out of Princess Mononoke. It has the weird. It looks like something out of a friggin' Anyways, it has the weird eyes. God, what's the guy who directed Mononoke's name? This is a bad time to be blanking out, but you get my point. So I like the design, but I have to say my favorite,
Hayao Miyazaki.
yeah, Miyazaki. It looks like a Miyazaki eye design because the eyes are like straight out of the weird forest spirits out of Princess Mononoke. But my favorite episode has to be the one with Raziel. But least favorite, I was gonna say Karo, but the Karo's reveal because I felt it was a little anticlimactic. It's like, okay, he crushes the angel, cool. But I'm gonna have to go with Toji's death. Toji's death pissed me off. I did not like that.
I don't. He didn't die.
Yeah, he didn't die.
Oh,
He dies in
He-
the manga. He doesn't die in the anime.
I screwed that up.
He ends up. He ends up being put in the hospital. I actually thought that was ridiculous. Why didn't you like that episode?
I was hoping that he would join like the crew and be like a regular. I'm gonna go kill these angels with these guys. It didn't turn into that. It turned into.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out if it was like an implied death or if because like that's the thing. I read the manga and
No,
I watched the show, so it's okay. Like I got confused.
We
by
don't
that.
feel like writing this character anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't like we don't feel like writing this character anymore. It was, it was he. All right, here's what I liked about that episode. All right, it's a lot of the same things that it's kind of what I like about the show in general is just how existentially horrific it is. Shinji is basically forced to destroy his friends with his own hands, and you got that imagery of the Ava unit's arms
Are you
just
talking about when he
stretching out,
refuses?
and
When he refuses,
Yeah.
and then the Ava goes into autopilot and just goes like I detect an
Yeah.
angel, must kill.
yeah,
Well, the main reason I
haven't
got
said
upset
my-
is because he was kind of like, how do I put it? He was more charismatic than Shinji. Shinji kind of was a letdown for me. Like I like characters that are like, I mean, hell, when we covered like Devil May Cry, I admit like I like Devil May Cry as a series because of Dante. I like characters that are upbeat. Toji was the closest thing in Evangelion to that in that age group.
Yeah.
Among the
if you're, I will say if you're looking for upbeat, or you're looking to, be happy or be excited, Ava is not the place to look.
Yeah, that's why that show like depresses the crap out of me. But anyways, continue.
Dude,
All right,
dude, I haven't said
Don't
my
watch Victory
favorite
Gundam.
episodes. I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
even
go ahead.
said my.
Go ahead.
All right. Personally, I would say my favorite episode would be the one with the angels that it pretty much become a virus because
Oh,
that is
yeah.
because holy shit that I did not expect.
Yeah,
Basically,
That's really cool. And they also basically did it again in End of Ava, which I thought was dumb, but I really liked how that one went into Ritsuko's character.
and then we have there's several. I would say my least favorite would be, well, I watched these, but I would have to say, my least favorite episode would, I think it was
You're cutting out
recap,
again.
my least favorite episode would be the the recap episode because I am not a big fan of recap episodes. But they put in a
I
minor
forgot
twist
it had
because-
a recap episode.
Yeah, I think it was the one with all the monsters so far.
Yeah, it was a quick
yeah.
recap of the Angels.
Yeah.
I will say this: at least the recap was tolerable. So I'm a huge fan of Fist of the North Star. I love Fist of the North Star. They had a recap because they were running out of writing material for the anime. Because I think either the anime had caught up with the manga or they had a scheduling issue. Because like that's how it was back in the 80s. If they had a scheduling issue, they had a recap episode. Their recap episode was literally just scenes of Kenshiro, main character, fighting off baddies, and all the bad guys working under the main villain of the first arc going, let's have a meeting to discuss the main character and all the men he's killed. Yeah, all the men he's killed, all the men we've lost. And then it's them narrating all the battles that you watched, and I'm just like, can I skip this? Can I please skip this? Is there
Yes,
dialogue
always
that is...
skip recap episodes.
Is there dialogue I need to see in this?
In defense of recap episodes, whenever we're watching animes we don't like, that is 20 less minutes that we have to watch.
True. But my point is, at least the Eva one was kind of, it wasn't as painful to watch because the Fist of the North Star one. Fist of the North Star reuses combat animations. So that was super painful to watch. So,
Yeah.
There is another episode I actually liked, and it was the one with the string angel. That could pretty much slice through everything.
that was cool as hell.
Yeah. I mean, it's very difficult to put in a favorite episode because all the fights were pretty decent.
Yeah.
I will say,
But-
before we touch on anything else, like I think we all agree that the Angels might have been the highlight of this anime for most of us.
Exactly.
I thought. I don't
Okay.
know. I thought the existential crises that the characters were going through were the highlight.
I was
of
gonna
the-
agree.
I wish.
Although my
it-
favorite episode is totally about the angel. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I enjoyed the Angels, and if I like the anime more, I might have cared more about their existential crisis. But I think that was kind of like the saving point for even the people that didn't like it.
So
All right.
my favorite episode is episode 6. Mostly because it's totally for just like pure mecha fanboy reasons. It's like Shinji must take on the angel, powered by the entirety of Japan, and he has his laser rifle that he's gonna shoot it at.
Oh
Like
God, that episode.
It's like-
that was one of the good ones as well.
that was
He
that was
also,
just kind of pure amazing.
He also lets out a Shinji scream, and a Shinji scream is awesome because it's absolutely blood curdling.
It was actually,
It's glorious.
yeah, I will say his screams are a little bit more memorable than Amuro's.
Oh God. Or Camille.
Camille, don't even get me started on Camille.
Fine, Camille.
Fucking
And Camille's a man's name.
So,
All right, Lawrence, what's your least favorite episode?
It's got to be a human work. I didn't really like that one, or the lava one. That lava one's kind of dumb.
All right, what happened in a human work again?
That's the one where the other group of people create the giant robot and it
Oh
goes
yeah,
nuts. It's like oh
that one's mediocre.
yeah.
How about you, Mike?
I actually, the episode where they have that one that uses the shadow to absorb you, I like that episode because at least when I was sitting there, like something dawned on me. It felt like that episode encapsulates the deconstruction of what mecha is. Like the idea of the Eva or the mecha or whatever being your interaction with the outside world that is dangerous. The character being absorbed by that and being reborn, like it's him actually integrating that within himself to some degree.
You mean the black and white ball?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
I always saw that as more like
that's when
falling
he's
right into the void.
yeah, that's when he's absorbed into the. It's called the Sea of Dirac.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode quite a bit just because of how it goes through like the whole 20 or 30 days where he's in there and it cuts back and forth to people on the outside and him actually being reborn in the sense of integrating this
That
the
actually-
Mecca being integrated with him.
That actually encapsulates the entire themes of the show because the show is about the difficulties and dangers of human interaction and how to deal with it because human beings can't really fully understand each other no matter how close they get, and the closer they get to one another the more likely they are to hurt each other. And just interacting with people in general, we're animals. You might run into someone, he might be nice, or he might stab you 6 times and steal your wallet. And that's something that you have to deal with as a human being, and that's sort of
slightly
the
change your voice tone and play the music from the last episode, and I think you've got a monologue that would fit right into the episode.
yeah,
And
Shinji,
to all the children, don't get stabbed by a stranger.
yeah.
Shinji,
Congratulations.
Shinji, remember on your first day when Ray was stabbed?
congratulations.
All right.
You played yourself.
Okay, so I was gonna say one
Okay,
thing.
wait, hold on. We're all preaching that we have to get along and like deal with people, but I mean, most of us are just sitting at home watching anime. So, like,
Well,
do we really? Do we really?
that video
We gotta just climb into that Mecca.
that video I
mean,
linked, it's by the YouTuber No Name. He's Mr. Cynical on Twitter.
I think it took 2 years for Will to convince me to even look at shoujo. So I think you got a point there, Josh. I wasn't even willing to look at other people's styles of anime.
Well, hold on. That's kind of what that video I linked was about. Is basically the anime is trying to tell you to actually go out and interact with the world and not just mindlessly dive into escapism. And the curse of Evangelion is that's all that the fan base ever does, to the point where when the message is retold to them, they get angry that it wasn't told in the way that they wanted it to be told in.
It's sort of I know Studio Kara, which is Hideaki Anno's studio. They did Me Me Me. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that music video. It's a little not safe for work, but that's sort of the core message there. And
Yeah.
Is that the one with the Is that the one with the boy in the pool and the girl trying to eat him?
no,
That's
that's
the one with the girl with the blue hair.
Oh, okay.
That's the one with
dress.
the girl that like he was dating some girl and then like she like tried to kill him. Like I guess like the best way is like he broke up with his significant other and then he just went and just played VR games all day.
yeah, and Evangelion figurines make a distinct cameo in there. So it's sort of that message in that one as well. What's also interesting is a certain other work that you could say a derivative of Eva, mostly because of the director's sheer love of it. Gridman, SSS Gridman.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I
it
think-
has a similar message as well.
Yeah, I think thematically, Gridman is a lot closer to Ava than Darling in the Franxx is.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I want to
let's
say one quick thing. I really wanted to say that I liked the sound work that was done in both the original and the new dub. But especially on the lava and the oceanic episodes where they're like
Well, I think the sound effect tracks and the music are the same besides
Nope,
changing
No,
the
no,
ending
no.
theme.
The
no, because the ADV added an echo whenever
Yeah.
they were inside.
Yeah,
of
but
the,
that was
that's-
with the dub track, not the sound effect track.
No, I said
If I
sound.
wanna add something,
I don't know what to call that, but Lawrence got what I'm getting at. Because like they did it. That's the thing with like '90s and 2000s anime. They were kind of better at doing the atmospheric sound because it was, how do I put this? Especially like with like Toonami block anime. Like if you're watching something and it's like if they're like in a submarine or something, it sounds like they're in a friggin' submarine, you know?
I wouldn't say it necessarily makes as much sense in the whenever they're in the little plug things, because it's supposed to be filled with like a liquid.
It's like liquid
you got
oxygen
like
or
this
something like
canny,
that?
yeah, the LCL. It's supposed to. It's like a liquid thing that's supposed to allow them to breathe, and that there'd be an echo within there, even though
Alright.
it's filled
Oh
with.
yeah,
It's
that's
just
actually a
bit
fair
weird.
point. Never mind.
Real quick, I
We
was going to-
really no. We
Alright.
really have to move on. It's midnight right now. We really have to move on.
Good
So,
point.
the side plot of being a clone was shit.
I'll ask you guys about this. So what is your understanding of the plot? Like, like it's not necessarily the most forward thing. I just looked up a better analysis of it. But like, what did you make of the plot?
mind if I go first?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. What have I understand for the plot is that there are some things that we simply cannot understand. And
well, that's
In
the
the-
themes.
So,
Yeah.
so
Sorry.
can I kind of throw like my idea? Like I did no research on this. This is basically what I thought, whenever, rather than like
hold on.
anything else. But go ahead.
I was gonna say that this is more or less like a reference in anything that would be from Nietzsche or any other philosopher regarding how man can create the god and so forth. In the case of the Atom Project, but in my understanding of the plot is basically this: you have to save the world after a meteorite falls in, melts the polar ice caps, and it all becomes and the entire planet becomes a tropical climate. So, in other words, it's about a kid who has to assume the responsibility of the world. He has the whole world in his shoulders.
Mhm.
And the only way that he could do that is by getting into a giant mech that is synchronized with his psyche. In other words, it's about a dude who has to save the world from aliens.
Uh,
Alright.
that is that is a pretty simple summary.
Yeah.
More or less.
I'd say, oh yeah, you had something. You go first.
So from I saw it kind of like from just like the names. So whenever I realized that they were like kind of creating life and playing with like cloning and things like that, and that the Avas were actually living beings, I was like, oh, they're playing God, and these angels are here to stop them. So the only way to stop the angels is by playing God better than God, is the way that I was seeing it. And so you had nerve, which the nervous system of the body, controlling everything and trying to play God. That's the central themes that I understood, was
Yeah.
that Nerve was actually the bad guys. It basically it's a very Japanese anime and like story driven thing. I mean, like if you look at any of the Final Fantasy games, they do the exact same kind of themes. And whenever I like was just listening to the fact that it was like angels and then cloning and like
Yeah.
creating living beings. I was like, well, yep, we're doing the new like if we fly too close to the sun, we're gonna have our wax wings burned. You know, we're doing the same themes over and over again. It was just
So
a
basically,
different
they're
I-
Does,
interpretation.
does anybody
think,
does anybody have another like plot interpretation? Because
I think that was pretty honestly a pretty good interpretation because you know
because
it-
I got
when that
another one
epi-
that's pretty interesting, so I just wanted to throw it out there.
yeah, hold on just a second. It's
Mhm.
like when Asuka Shinji, you know that episode where they're separated from the Avas during the attack. They and they're like crawling through these maintenance shafts, and Shinji just asks, you know, why are we fighting angels? Aren't they messengers from God? And like shouldn't we be friends with the angels? It doesn't make any sense. And then Asuka she's just like, well, isn't it obvious? It's because they're attacking us. And I think you know I think that kind of really wraps up your point because why would messengers from God be attacking you unless you were doing something completely horrible?
So I looked up this analysis. I don't know if you could throw a link to the specific analysis up in the description or something later on, but the plot explanation that I saw basically detailed that the angels are the spawn of Adam, and there's a progenitor sort of race that sent these two sort of beings, Lilith and Adam, out to different sort of planets. Only one would be on one of the planets. So where Lilith would be, humans and animals as we know it would come, and where Adam is, the angels are produced. So on Earth, there was an accident where Adam
both
and
happen to be on there.
Lilith.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's first impact. Second impact is when a human came into contact with Adam in the
Because
Antarctic.
he carried a piece of Lilith, and the reaction was a bit like matter and antimatter.
Yes, because they can't. They're not supposed to coexist at all. Because if they were to exist, you'd have the powers of this progenitor race of some sort.
This isn't mentioned in Evangelion, but you'd have the power of a Metatron, or basically like something superhuman, or not godlike, but like a demigod. And the progenitors were trying to prevent that. That was the whole point of them having that failsafe of if these two things come in contact, they explode.
So this creates the whole thing. That's why the angels are attacking Tokyo, because they have the body of Lilith, and so Kaoru possesses the soul of Adam, and the reason you see the angel attack the ship that Asuka's on is because what's his name? God, I can't believe I blanked on his name. The guy who was in a relationship with Misato. Kaji was picking up the body of Adam that was created during Second Impact.
The embryo.
And that's
the embryo.
Yeah, the embryo. So the embryo is the body of Adam. So Gendo and Seele are both trying to create the human instrumentality, so to create a new form of human existence in which there are no boundaries between people, and everybody has all of their flaws and sorts, and removed, and they exist as the LCL.
I mean, I say layman's terms, but I mean, this is like relative layman's terms. It's a singularity. It's a near, if not complete, hive mind of the human race, where we've evolved to a point of superhuman anti-Solitude. I say anti-Solitude because Solitude is non-existent.
Total interconnectivity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is their goal. Gendo is trying to bring this about so he could be reunited with his dead wife Yui, who chose to become a part of Ava Unit 1 to preserve humanity in some capacity, which was a bit weird, and I didn't fully understand it, but that's what it said.
that was a thing. She wanted, in case they failed or something, or it was like a tribute to humanity's success. Basically, hey, the Evas are like, don't they have human DNA?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
I think
You
it was
have
like
some human
95% human.
Mhm.
I think it was
Oh,
somewhere.
speaking of things related to Ava that have human DNA, how about the fact that the three Magi computers are basically parts of Ritsuko's mother's personality?
They even
Something like
like
that, yeah.
have a human brain in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you look into the inside of the computer, you find a message. Towards the Gendo Ikari. Because well, if I had to be honest, let's be honest, both of them were in a sort of a romantic relationship, but Gendo decided more on his. Well, let's just say that Gendo pretty fucking is scumbag. He's
Mhm.
father of the year of all decades. He's basically the middle equivalent of Ragyo Kirin Kill.
Yep. Anyway,
Alright.
so I guess we should start wrapping up. Like I say, let's give another 5 minutes and then
Yeah.
end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let's just give our reviews because we're way over time, but I guess that's expected from Evangelion.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to argue that much. Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we're
Alright,
gonna argue.
All right,
Yeah,
guys,
I got the brass knuckles out. Let's go.
All right, Josh, you go first.
So, if I'm looking at it, like I'm gonna give it two different reviews, but I'm gonna explain them. But the second review is the one that we're gonna count. Okay. So the first review is for its time. If I was an anime fan back whenever this came out, this would have been a 7 or an 8. This would have been a very solid anime. I would have been very upset. I probably would have been one of the people writing into the studio going, "What the hell? Why is it ending like this? Remake it." Like it was done well for its time period. It is a huge influence on media today whenever it comes to what we see in anime. However, I do not enjoy mech animes. I do not enjoy a lot of the storylines. It very much had a lot of the issues that I have with mechs, and it reminds me of this is the anime that started a lot of the reasons I don't like mech. So for me, it's a 5, but knowing that that's because so much better media has come out since then.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that Josh won't be able to join us in our next podcast. He's gonna turn up missing.
Agreed.
Heretic? No, not really. No.
All right.
But see, our diverse opinions are what give us a better take on things.
Yeah.
I think. Is it okay if I go
Lawrence,
next?
you go. Yeah,
All
you
right.
go ahead. I usually
So-
go last.
So, honestly, I for the longest time have had a lot of trouble trying to consider Ava to be a mecha anime, and that's mostly because I don't feel like the Avas are just mechs. But to me, it feels a lot like it's a tokusatsu show, like sort of like in the realm of like Power Rangers or Godzilla, things like that. That's how at least it comes off to me. But there's a lot of influence from, things like Gundam, Daeon, some of the progenitors of the real robot genre. And I think another part of it is sort of the beginning and sort of the monster of the week sort of format you see with the Angels. And from that aspect, I think it's quite interesting. I think it gets put into being mechs, into the mecha genre, because there's no tokusatsu for anime, because tokusatsu is a live action genre. But for a long time I had written off Evangelion until a certain gentleman here convinced me to finally watch it, because I had only seen the movies, which were god awful. Don't watch the movie. Don't do it. But
Okay, did you honestly enjoy the show though?
I love the show. And the show is genius in a lot of ways, especially from a direction, storyboard, layout, animation perspective.
You want to know a little secret?
It's stunning.
You want to know a little secret?
Absolutely stunning.
So whereas I think it was Will that convinced you. It was Neo Tokyo Tempo here that convinced you to watch it. It was I think it was Josh and Will both who convinced me to take a look at it again. But the reason I'm salty about the show is because I actually enjoyed the show, and I was so pissed off at the ending as a teenager that anger carried on as an adult. So I was so angry I refused to look at anything else related to it. I finished the manga, but I didn't care about it. Yeah.
All right, let's get your review score in.
I'd give this like a solid, with the consideration that we live in a world where End of Eva also is just a product that you can get in conjunction with this. I'd give this like a solid 9, 8.5. Like, it's great. My one complaint is that I personally feel like it could use a couple more episodes, especially with just how quickly Kaoru was introduced and just gone. But budget restrictions. I mean, it's kind of even unusual that it lasted for the sort of 25, when animes of that time would go on to be at least 50 episodes and things like that. So, yeah, solid 8.5, 9 out of 10.
Let's see, Striker. Did you go yet?
No, I'm.
Oh, by the way, who's writing these down?
I got all that.
Okay. Striker, you go.
All right. For a long time, ever since I watched the ADB dub on TV, I have thought that Evangelion was one of the most boring anime. But having watched the series to Will and the other guys, I have learned a lot from this. And I see how significant really. I mean, just about everything. This anime pretty much is the karekan of mecha anime. It's where all the other animes that would follow, well, it would follow its formula. This anime is iconic. It's as iconic as Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Face of the North Star. It really is. It's a show so good that even non-anime people would get into. And frankly, here's the thing. I'm not gonna apologize for the said about Evangelion, but I will say, if you feel like getting your mind fucked, this is one of those anime, and it does it very well. It aged very well, like fine. And in this case, well, it has a couple of flaws here and there. I mean, especially the Kaoru arc and in the Rei arc, but at the much consideration, this is a yes. You guys heard right. This is a Alright. Well, go watch it.
We didn't hear your score. You cut out.
My score is 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. All right.
Originally, it was going to be 8.5, but having remembered the anime long after I stopped watching, it sticks to you. So, yeah,
Yeah.
this is a 9.
676.
All right. And this without the end of Evangelion factored in, since I barely watched that. I give this a 6, mainly because it has a lot of good narrative potential, and like what I pointed out with the episode that I liked, the whole thing with him being absorbed into the Eva. Like, it had a lot of interesting philosophical tones and things like that. Even then, I could feel like the ending 2 episodes being their own kind of thing, like separate from Eva. Like, it has a lot of things, but there's characters that piss me off and certain things that just tear it down enough to where I'm like, there's failed potential there.
All right. And then Red Baron.
Oh wait, what was that score? I have a 5, a 9, a 9.
It was a 6.
6. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So,
Red Baron.
the reason I jumped in to add to what Lawrence said is because I don't have much to say. Just basically what Lawrence said, but my score is an 8 out of 10. Namely because I just can't forgive. To this day, I cannot forgive. I mean, I understand. I understand that they were having budgetary issues. We watched Karakano. Karakano was struggling towards the end. It was a problem with the studio. It was not the fault of the director as much. But at the same time, I cannot give it any higher a score than 8. Because it's a great show, but as much as I enjoyed it, up until the point it pissed me off, yeah, I know. I cannot. Okay, we're gonna eventually do end at the end of Evangelion, but even so, even with that, I was still pissed. Even with that, I was like, really, we're gonna do this? This is how we're gonna end this? More symbolic crap. Because here's the thing, when I watch Mecha, I like the objective world. I like the here and now. I like buildings crumbling. I like the terror of giant monsters and the hope of a robot bringing terror to the giant monster. So basically, Eva kind of, it kind of sideswiped me. It kind of threw me off. And to this day, I don't know. I like it. I really enjoyed the action and a good percentage of the story, but regardless of the Netflix dub, again, I think we were all agreeing that I think before we started broadcasting, Gendo Akari's voice actor, regardless of the Netflix or the original, because of the lines and the presence, Gendo's very commanding. So some things were really good. So regardless of the quality of the voice acting for Netflix, I'm still going to have to give it like an 8 because, yeah, I like it, but it disappointed me.
All right. If I was reviewing it with End of Evangelion, I would give it a 10. Now, I do not just give something a 10. I give something a 10 when not only is it really, really, really good, not only is it like mastery of the craft, but on top of that, it has seen years and years and years of people watching it and things coming out after it, and it stood the test of time. But we are not reviewing it with End of Evangelion. We're reviewing it with the original ending. And the original ending, I think, is from a like a philosophical perspective, it's defensible, but from a narrative perspective, it's completely indefensible. And with that, I think it drops it down from a 10 to an 8.5. So that's what I'm going to give it. I know you put my 10 in there, but that should be an 8.
I'm fixing it now. Don't
All
worry.
right. So we're gonna average up the scores here in just a second.
That night made me sound like a shill, didn't I?
6 plus 8 plus.
I mean, I'm being generous here. I enjoyed it.
Well, while he's doing that, I'm gonna mention
7.58.
7.5.
We'll say 5.6.
7.56. The score is an 8.34.
On
Yeah,
my anime listing, and then I had the other ones up. Give me
Yeah.
1 second.
I
It was
am
an
going
8.6
to-
on IMBD and on TV, so it's kind of like 8.
I am
above
just
8
going
across the
to
board.
mention just really quick before we go. The animation is really spectacular because we didn't really go into
Agreed.
that. But
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
let's not go
Very
into
detailed. Very detailed.
Yeah,
I
it
feel
is
like we can go into some more of that stuff and like maybe even some more character stuff and when we talk about Indiveva as well.
Yep.
Let's
Yeah.
just but like just to touch on it for its time period, this is
Well,
extremely well.
even for
Definitely.
today, like it's just great seeing this lost art of cell animation in the highest best form it's ever gotten to. It's very, very beautiful.
It was definitely one of the most well done animes ever. Like it still holds up today is I think the best way to put it.
Yeah, but anyway, let's wrap this up. That was the July 2019 podcast. That was Evangelion. We had some mixed feelings about it. Some of us really like it. Some of us kind of like it. Some of us hate it. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a sign that the show was effective. That it's able to spark so many divergent feelings about it. So, yeah, everyone's having a good night, and I hope.
Before you end, I'm just gonna say I'm glad our score was an accurate score. That was the real thing without the nostalgia goggles. So go ahead and do your thing.
Yeah. I hope
guys.
everyone's having a. Oh no! We're ending. I hope everyone's having a good evening, a good past midnight for me, and yeah, that's gonna be it. See y'all later.
Have a good one.
Congratulations!
Congratulations.
Congratulations.